Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Lennox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Lennox. You know, one of the things that I like about what I do as a coach, as an identity architect, is number one, I get to meet a lot of people and have interesting conversations with them. And as a coach, well, some of the people that I meet, they're not clients; they're just friends or people that are nurturing relationships with me, and so forth. But I get the opportunity to things in people that they may not see in themselves, things that they may not really taken time to think about, because in most cases, we're so busy taking care of things, people, other people, kids, husband, house, work, and all of that. And we've been conditioned so strongly, so deeply. We've been programmed and indoctrinated that it's not an honorable thing to think highly of oneself, to think good about yourself, or to think of the qualities that you may have. So that's one of the things that I get to do. I get to bring you back to that place of remembering what is, not what ought to be, or what is the person that you are. And I got a chance to do that last night with a friend, and it was so invigorating because they didn't realize the things that other people see. And I know it's true because as a coach, I don't really, there's no one that's coming to me telling me how great I am, but the confidence that I have, that suffices for me. But over the weekend, it was interesting because my husband and I, we do that all the time. I always take opportunities to let him know the things that I admire in him, the qualities, and of course, he's evolving every day, and we all are. It's not because the person you were yesterday is not the person that you are today. You are evolving, and as time and the years and the seasons and the chapters change, you become a different person just by your experiences, situations, just life shapes your way of thinking and your way of behaving and so forth. So I do take time to 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 share with my husband the things that I see in him, and how amazing of a person he is, and a wonderful human being, and his strength and his characteristics and the attributes, and all of that. I share it, and I like to, because they're true. I don't share that to like boost his ego or whatever, because he doesn't even realize that those are the qualities that I see in him. But I think it's a great thing to do. But by the same token, he took time to share with me over the weekend, because he doesn't do that a lot. He doesn't share it verbally. He One of the things that I noticed, my husband, he always say, I would do something, and he always says, "Thank you." And I know that's basic, but he doesn't take it for granted. I appreciate you doing this for me. I appreciate your doing going online and doing this, and I appreciate you're resolving this issue. And he always says that, and I always thought, wow, that's great, because these are things that I'm expected to, well, not that I'm expected to, but I expected of myself to do, just basic things. But he always says thank you. But over the weekend, he was sharing, and he says, you are the pillar of strength in our relationship. And he was telling me that I'm such a good partner, because we work as a strong team, and we are a family of between us, and it's you and I, and those things really, to hear it, really did something to my psyche, because I don't spend time thinking about myself like that. I know certain attributes of myself, and I am mindful of it, very aware, but it's not something that that I hear all the time. So to hear it from your spouse, it was pretty significant to me. But what I'm saying here is that I get the opportunity to share things with people. We were in a setting, and there was this executive, CEO of a company. He is just a millionaire type guy. He's just got it all, and he has this company. But the guy, his language is giving. And I said, your language is giving. You give. The guy is he's got a lot of money, but he gets his joy in giving to the employees, giving to his friends, giving to organizations, giving to charity. Every opportunity, giving to the college that he graduated from. And that is such an admirable trait, attribute, quality. And he said, when I mentioned it to him, he said, oh, okay. He said, I never saw myself that way. I never thought of myself that way. But in actuality, he is. Because for the time that I have known him, he is just, that's what he does. That's what, someone is retiring, he gives them a boatload of money to subsidize. Someone has got a problem with a car, he extends help for that. Someone has got a issue with family and medical bills and all that, and here he goes extending that. But he does it with such a natural kick. He doesn't think about it. And it's something that I have observed along the years. So I was able to share it with him, and he you could see that he really thought about it and really grasped that. He didn't really see himself that way because that's what he does naturally, which is a great thing. But it's always good to tell the people that you are with, tell the people in your life, tell the people that surround you. You're and even your sometimes we are in a relationship, and our partner or our kids or family members, so forth, we take them or just their presence for granted, and not consciously, but they're there, and you say, well, he knows that I love him, or he knows that I appreciate him, and so forth, and we just take it for granted. And I remember when my mom was in my life, when she was alive, and we used to have so much fun together. And my mom would always say, if you want something done, ask Cynthia. If you want to be sure that it'll get done, or you will know the course you need to take, you need to talk to Cynthia. And it's interesting because I didn't know that about me. All I know is that I am a hands-on type person, and I'm always trying to figure things out, problem resolution, and I stay cool, and I think critically, and then I address the options that I choose from the options that I have to resolve situation. But I didn't know that that's the way she saw me. And I thought, wow. And do you know that those words have stayed with me forever? And what it has done, in other words, it fed my psychic. What it has done is, when I was in corporate America, I was like, if there's a situation, we need to solve it. We need to address it, and we need to solve it. And even in my personal life, my husband, he always say, and says, you just remain so calm and collected. You're just so calm. You don't engage in any kind of stress or pressure, regardless of what the situation is. You remain calm. And again, that's another thing. I never really thought about that. But just the fact that my mom said, Cynthia will get it resolved or get it done and so forth, I'm always thinking, I can get the answer. I have it. I can figure it out. I can work it out. I will know what to do. Just those words that she said about me, and she said it, she was talking to someone in my presence, and she said that. So that's something that I have lived with, ever since she passed away, because it was like few couple of years before that she made that statement, and it really stayed with me, and it really boosted me. So what I'm saying is that that's one of the things that I'm happy that I get to do in people's lives, and come in and really listen and hear what they're saying. And if I have known them, then of course there are things that I can add or point out as to why, as to what I see in them, their qualities, attributes, characteristics, things about themselves, skills, expertise, and creativity, and so forth. And people need to know that, because the things that we know, understand this, the things that the things that you believe, let's say, not the things that because knowing something and believing something is totally different. The things that you believe are not just random thoughts, they're not just harmless ideas. Belief is a fundamental grounding of who you are, of what you know about yourself, of what you believe about yourself. Because a belief system, your belief is a set of instructions that is within you, in your psychic, in your thoughts, your mind, your thinking. Its belief is it's a blueprint. It's what you're guided by. Belief is it's a manuscript, not necessarily your own, but it's a manuscript that you follow. And your thoughts follow your belief. Your thoughts follow what you believe. The things you believe, remember, they are instructions to you as to how to live, what to do, what to think, how to respond, and what to expect. All of those things are guided by a set of belief system. So again, it's like it's your instruction manual, if you will. It's your manuscript, and it is your blueprint for living, and your thoughts follow that. Now, your thoughts create habits. The habits you have, your habits, are created by the thoughts that you have. This morning, I was listening to a doctor speak, and he was talking about vitamin D, and he said that vitamin D is not a vitamin. Vitamin D is a hormone, and that is something I was not aware of. Vitamin D is not a vitamin. Vitamin D is a hormone. And then he was talking about the difference between vitamin D3 and vitamin D2 and so forth. And then he also said that the best source of vitamin is when you go out taking a walk in the sun. The sun is the best source of vitamin D. And, I've kind of slackened off on my walking a little bit. And I was kind of inspired by that, motivated by that. Because I just say, vitamin D, it's not a supplement. Again, it's a hormone that affects all functions in your body. You need vitamin D3. So in my mind, I thought, you know what? I need to start getting out there walking again in the mornings. Last summer, I kind of stopped because, I was walking in like almost 100 degrees, and it just, I got exhausted because I was kind of pushing it too far, walking like 7 miles, and that's not really necessary. But I liked it so much because the path that I walk is so pleasant, and nature, and all of that. So I really enjoy that. And even though I haven't been walking, I've been doing this Tai Chi exercise, which is, indoors. You do it at home, and it's great. It gets you moving, but it doesn't give you the sun because you're indoors. So I determined in my mind, I need to get back to that habit of walking. I just gave my mind a new set of instructions, my thoughts to deliver, so that will, because this whole thing about the vitamin is something that I believe. So I'm going to register that I'm going to program that. I'm going to uh, condition my mind with that information, that it's a hormone which your body needs, because it helps with your autoimmune system, and it's just necessary. Look it up. It was very interesting what he had to share, but I didn't know that. I did not know that that vitamin D is not a vitamin, really. It's not a supplement. It is a hormone. And after I got off listening to the show, watching the show, I went and looked it up. I looked it up, and it is true. So when I kind of research things and know for myself, when I do a lot of deep dive digging, and I know for myself, then of course that is something that I can create, an instruction, a manuscript, a blueprint. I have checked this out and learned it for myself. You see, when I talk about discover what works for you, you hear things from outside, because of course we are connected to the world. We are connected to what we hear, what we see, and all of that. We are connected to outside influence, but you're not governed or guided by that. We get information. At least that's the way I do it. I get the information, and then I go research. If it's something that I'm interested in, then I go research and to determine if it's true or not, or just to get some clarity on it, because I don't assume that a doctor is going to be on there uh, saying things, and that's not true. And um, I'm not sure if he was promoting some type of thing, because he was uh, wanted to go in further into deeper explanation, but I didn't have time to follow him. I just thought that that piece of information was good enough for me to absorb and follow. So I determined that I'm going to register that piece of information in my thoughts. That's going to be sit in my mind, and then it will become a habit. It will become a habit. Remember, your belief are not random thoughts. They're not just harmless ideas. Your belief are a set of instructions. It's a set of instructions. Your thoughts create your beliefs. The things that you think about most create your belief. Your thoughts follow the belief. Whatever you have registered, your thoughts is going to follow. You're going to think about things this way. You're going to think about things that way. You're going to think about things this way. You're going to think about things in the past and sometimes fall into depression, or you're going to try to accelerate your life and then fall into anxiety, things that haven't happened yet, and then you fall into being anxious about life, things that don't exist. And then your life, my friend, your life becomes the evidence of the set of beliefs that you have. Your life starts reflecting the things that you believe. Look at your life. What is your life saying about you? What does your life say about you? You could look at someone and you look at them, and that's why uh, they said it is said that you never have a second chance to make a first good impression. That's why if you're going to leave your house, make sure, just think about, who might I meet? And the way you present yourself is what people see and what you are judged by. That's just the way it is. Not good about it, right or wrong. That is just the way it is. We all do it. We look at someone, and there was this thing on social media the other day that talk about people wearing bonnets in public, and there was just this whole big thing and so forth, and which for me was just kind of funny, hilarious, simply because that's not something that I subscribe to, but just to hear how people complain about women wearing bonnets into into the stores and the grocery stores and all that and so forth. So anyway, the thing is that it is so important that you understand that your belief is the foundation that guides your life. It is guided by the belief you have. Now, most of us, or most, I should say, most people live by borrowed beliefs. Belief that's not even theirs. You believe things that you don't even understand. Why am I thinking this way? Why do I believe that? They're borrowed belief. And I was talking with someone the other day, and she was talking about sin and sinner and all that. And I said, what if you went to another country that's never heard of anything having to do with, you meeting some primitive people, and you talk to them about sin, and they have no knowledge, no understanding what sin is. They don't know the definition of sin. You would have to go through this whole thing to explain it. And so I said, what if the sinner becomes the person that refuses to live by those borrowed beliefs that you try to share with them? What if they said, no, what if that person says, no, I don't need to ask permission for that. I don't need validation. I don't need you to tell me what to do and who I am. And, I don't need any of that. What if that becomes the person that becomes aware of themselves, not, barring all the belief system, barring all the do's and the don'ts and the should and the shouldn't and all of that, thou shalt. And, what if someone says, no, I'm not, no, you come disrupting my flow, my peace, my life. I'm not going to do that. What does that make that person? How would you judge that person? Because, like when we hear of, like if we say, like if some religious person calls a person a sinner or whatever, what they're thinking of: shame, judgment, guilt, all of those things the person is labeled. But what if it's just simply awareness of who they are? And they refuse to live. They choose to think. They choose to think and live in a self-governed manner. They're like, of course I can do this. Why should I not be able to do this? Why should I not be able to do that? Who has written the manuscript that you follow? I'm sharing this with you, my friend, because so many people are stuck. One person that I spoke with the other day, they had this whole thing about money, and they have some issues with it, and they need money. It doesn't, they're working, but it's not enough to meet the responsibilities that they have. But at the same time, they're bashing money. They're saying, well, I don't really want to be rich. I just want to have enough money to pay my bills and to do the things that I want. My friend, those are instructions that you are feeding your mind, that you're creating a belief system based on instructions. And that instructions is based on this whole taboo thing about money. If you say I like money or I love money, people, they get into all this the whole dialogue about money, and it's evil and it's bad and all this kind of stuff, and which is not necessary. When I hear money, there are certain things of life that you can say you love. I love to sleep, I love to eat, and I love sex. Those are biological needs that we have: sleep, food, and sex. Those are things that we can say, oh, I love to eat. Well, it's not that you love to eat. You have to eat in order to stay alive. You have to sleep in order to stay alive, and your body regenerate itself. And then sex is gratification, sexual gratification that we get from coupling with someone. But money is something that I respect. I respect money, and I honor money. I never, ever, even when there were times in my life years ago where money became a challenge. Money became a challenge, or wait a minute, no. The lack of, when I lost my job on a couple occasions, the lack of money became a challenge. But I never say, I'm broke, I'm poor. As a matter of fact, I used to teach in a setting, and I had so many people come up to me wanting to borrow money right in the midst of my own financial challenge. They just looked at me and they thought, well, yeah, she's got extra that she can loan people. I didn't have any. I was trying to meet my own needs. So we this person, and they're talking about the money and just bad mouthing, and then bad mouthing millionaires and so forth, and they just went on this whole thing thinking about these people should do this with their money and do that with their money, not knowing the people. If you don't know the millionaires that you are criticizing, you don't know what they do with their money. And even if they do evil stuff, that's something that's beyond your control. Stay busy trying to get your own money, your own funds. Try to build your own wealth, whether it's by investment or real estate, whatever. Coming up with a creative idea. Like the young lady during the Super Bowl when she came up with the what was it? What, Dr. Pepper? The Dr. Pepper tune. Imagine that. She'd been doing that for the longest time. And then someone heard her and sent it to Dr. Pepper, and they liked it and made a big commercial of it. And now she became a millionaire from one day to the next. And she's happy. And that's what we can do. And especially today with AI and all the tools that are available to us. Don't bash AI, and don't think AI is coming to take your job. Think, what do I need to do to sharpen my skills? What do I need to enhance my knowledge? What do I need to do to stay abreast, to stay relevant, to know? And then you can create something. There's so many jobs today that is mobile, that is you can work any part of the world. It's remote is the word. Remote. You can work anywhere and make enough money to sustain yourself and your family. You just need to know what to do, when to do, how to do it. And then you market the product that you have. Once you determine that you want to do something, once you make a decision, and I've said this many times, once you make a decision of the things you want to do, you will start seeing opportunities, situations, circumstances, just things start happening in your life. People will come into your life with an idea, tell you something, and just a plethora of new opportunities will come into your circle once you make a decision. And it's not about, yeah, it's not about positive thinking. It's just about, you need to look out for yourself. You need to know how your belief is guiding the way you live, the way you think, the way you functions, your habits, the patterns of your life, because that is what dictates, it dictates your health, your social circle, it dictates your mental stimulation, it dictates just about everything, your relationships, the patterns that you establish in your life, habits, things you do day in and day out. So what happens when one refuses to to follow borrowed belief? Have you thought about that? All the things, and that's one of the things, when I sit with someone and ask them about themselves, if it's a coaching situation, I ask them about themselves and so forth, and people always start with, well, that's the way I grew up, that's the way I was raised, and that's what I know, that's all I know. And then, if you say, well, have you thought of options? They Most people don't give themselves options, because belief system, a belief brings comfort. It's a place of comfort. It's a comfort zone. But where there's comfort, nothing grows in a space of comfort. Nothing grows because there's no newness of anything. There's no new information. It's the same old, same old. It's the same default, living by default on autopilot, the same thing you do over and over and over. Nothing innovative, nothing challenging, nothing adventurous, nothing new. So when you have to go outside of the system of belief that is the foundation of your life, it can be scary. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. It can be scary. You know why? Because you don't know what it's like out there, outside of a belief system. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what people think, what that you have no idea. So you go through life with the same foundational belief system that you have, of which you have no understanding. Why? That is such a crucial question. When I ask people, why do you think this way? Or do you think that's the only option? People that stay in abusive relationships, people that stay in jobs they don't like, they stay there because they're afraid that if they try to expand and do something else, that they might fail. People that stay in cities, there's so many people that are, they grew up in a town with all the family, and of course everyone wants the family to be in the same community and so forth, and but they hate it. They want to expand, they want to grow, they want to discover the newness of life, they want to do new things, but it's scary. Why? Because they haven't stepped out. And I would say, well, have you considered doing this? Yeah, but I don't have a job. I remember one time, and I think I don't remember if I shared this before. I was I used to live in California, and I I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave California because I had planned to go to Bible school in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, I am from a big city. I am from, well, when I came to the US, I came to New York and I lived in New York many years and just loved it. Big city girl. And then from New York, I moved to California, big city. And, in Newport Beach, the beach there and the sun, and just absolutely loved it. But then when I decided I wanted to go to Bible school, uh, the Bible school that I wanted to go to was in Tulsa. I knew no one in Tulsa, and that's a small town. I didn't think of it in those terms because I only had one goal, and that was to go to Bible school. So I made a decision. That's what I'm going to do. And the moment I decided I was going to go to Tulsa, I got a call from a set of a couple set of pastors, and they said, "Oh, absolutely, come." And I said, "Well, okay, it will be a short stay until I get a place of my own and so forth." And it was a short stay, a couple weeks and so forth. So I was in Tulsa for maybe a year and a half and so forth. Didn't go to Bible school at all, because I started teaching language to some folks. And after a while, uh, Tulsa was just too small for someone like me, just too small. I am not a small town type person. I like big cities. I like the mall, and I like the airports that I can get on a plane and travel internationally and nonstop, and all those things. I just like big city life. Now, big city, but living in the suburb. But then you can drive into the city and go to the stores, to the mall, to the shops, to dinner and plays and ballets and all that kind of stuff. I like to have all of that available, uh, you know, close by city. So after I decided I'm going to leave, uh, and this was many years ago. So it's not, I'm talking to whoever I'm talking to. It's not like I'm talking to someone that's 18, 19. No, I'm talking about an adult. You're past, you know, your 20s or finished college at 22, 22, 24, whatever. And I decided I'm going to leave Tulsa. I'm leaving Tulsa. I don't want to be in Tulsa anymore. Beautiful city, but it was just so constrained. It was just so tight. And so I had to make a decision. Where do I want to go? And that's why I'm saying, things that I share are things that I have done. And I said, uh, I had to make a decision. Now I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to New York. That's what I knew. Or go back to California because those are big cities. That's what I knew. And I really wasn't feeling it. And back then, I didn't, all this thing about intuition and knowing who I am and having the confidence that I have now. That wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't a conscious move that I made. That I knew that as I made a decision, that doors will open and things will start flowing. And it wasn't. I wasn't there. It's just the way I function. I trust me. If you don't trust yourself, you can't be authentic. If you don't trust yourself, it's hard to make a move. You have to trust yourself and know that everything is going to be okay and that everything is going to work for your good. Everything is going to work out for you. I always say that. I know that everything always works out. So when I made a decision, I said, you know what? Um, I was in Tulsa, and then the closest big city or state, I guess, was Texas. And then I was watching TV one day and I saw like the Galleria Mall in Houston. Now, I didn't know anything about Houston and I didn't know anything about Dallas. And after watching, I thought, oh, wow, they have a big mall and it looks great and so forth. And then on the next occasion, on another occasion, I saw the city of Dallas. And I thought, wow, that's great. And once I made a decision, that's where I'm going to go. It's amazing the way things happen. And I think I've shared this before. I made a decision. I'm going to go to Dallas, Texas. Seems like I'm tearing something. I'm not sure. Anyway, I said I'm going to Dallas, Texas. Had never been to Dallas, didn't know anyone in Dallas at all, didn't know anyone or anything. And so I thought, okay, what's my first step? I said, well, I need to get a job. So I started looking in the yellow pages back then. Some of you were not even born yet. When the yellow pages is all reference that we have. We didn't have cell phones at that time in order to make it easier to just go through and find jobs and LinkedIn and all of that. We didn't have that. You had to look in the yellow pages or look in the white pages and look for recruiting offices and executive recruiting and so forth. So I looked for a recruiting office and got a hold of this recruiting office. And for some reason, it's interesting because the owner, the CEO of that office answered the phone just by, and I don't know, I probably called like after 5 o'clock or something, but they answered the phone. Imagine that. I didn't even imagine. I am there in Tulsa and I made a decision. I'm going to Dallas. Knew no one, didn't have any kind of connection, nothing at all. And the first step, I thought, I need to get a job. And so I called this recruiting agency, management recruiting agency. So I called, and the owner, the CEO of that recruiting agency answered, and just so pleasant, and we had a great conversation. And once I gave her my information, and remember, back then it's not like you could email your resume to someone. It was a little more complex than that. But once I gave her all that information and she had my credentials and so forth, she said something like, what part of town are you? Oh no, do you have any preference as to where you're going to where you prefer to work? Because Dallas is a big city and there are different suburbs, there are just lots of different areas in not only Dallas but the surrounding suburbs and areas and so forth, other cities and so forth. And I said, well, no, I don't know what's best, what's new. I knew nothing. And so the question was, this person, remember, this person is the CEO of the recruiting agency that I called. And she said, well, what city, where are you going to live? What city are you going to stay in? And I said, well, I'm not sure. I will decide that once I know where I'm going to work, the city that I'm going to work. She said, well, you're coming to Dallas, but where are you going? Like, where are you staying? What city will you be living in? And I said, again, I don't have a place. Once I get there, if I know the job is in X city, then I would probably, try to accommodate in a hotel or something of that nature for, until I get situated and so forth. And she says, well, you don't know what city you're going to live in? You're going to stay in a hotel? And I said, well, yeah, Guess what she said? She said, well, if that's the case, well, you could stay with me. The CEO of the recruiting firm, we had we don't know each other. We have never seen each other. We had never spoken other than that one time. There was nothing that connected us. We did not know each other. We could not even do a FaceTime or Zoom, none of that. We couldn't do any of that because back then we didn't even have cell phones that we could say, okay, send me a text or whatever. No text. Really. And that's not too long ago. And she said, well, you could stay with me. You could stay. And I was like, I mean, I don't know who this person is because I had concerns. It's not just her doing me a favor, but I'm also vetting her because I don't know who she is. I don't know what kind of situation, what kind of living. And then she said, well, I have a big enough condo. It's like a townhouse, and I've got an extra room that's a guest room. And she said that. And I paused. I don't know what I was trying to do, or I paused for a while and I thought, wow, that, it took me a while to absorb all of that. And I said, well, thank you. I said, that's very generous of you. She said, yeah, no, you can come and you can stay with me until you find a place to live, until you get your own place and so forth. But I'm going to help you find a job, and I will, and you can stay with me. Now, I didn't have a car, and I didn't have a place to stay, but I said thank you, and I did agree to stay with her. So we made a plan, and she started looking for jobs for me and sending out my resume. She created one and so forth, and she says, well, why don't you come? Because the moment a client wants to see you, you will have to be here. So she kind of tailored it to where I would be there present so that she could send me out on interviews and so forth. Back then, things were easier and you would go on a physical interview. It wasn't like today you Zoom, or they check you out, vet you and so forth. Anyway, back then they did vet you as well, but it was different. It was more manual, other than here's all digital. So I arrived. We said, okay, it was a Friday. I remember that. And I arrived. I said, I'm going to take this flight on this airline, and I will be arriving at 7 o'clock at night and so forth. Remember, I didn't know what she looked like. She had no idea what I looked like. Fascinating story. I don't even know how I came up with that, but just I'm sharing this with you so that you can know that once you make a decision, you can move, you can do things, you can get things going, and the universe will set things up, people, opportunities, situations, things to work it out for your benefit. So I took the flight, and when I got out of the 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 plane, and I got to the waiting area, there was this beautiful woman. She looks like a model. She was standing there, and I looked at her. She looked at me, and I said, you must be Sharon. And she said, and you are Cynthia. Look, we hugged each other, and it's like we had known each other for the longest time. We hugged, and she's like, welcome. Wow, you're so beautiful. And it's good. And I'm like, no, you are a beautiful woman. And we just started talking. I think we went out to dinner, and she took me to her house, to her home, and accommodated me, a nice bedroom, all set up, all dolled up and all fixed up. She had it fixed for me, and I had not only did I have my own room, my own bedroom, but my own bathroom and shower and everything. It was exclusive for me, of course, unless there were guests. But yeah, the accommodations was just beyond what I could have even thought. And there was an element of trust. It wasn't like I had to be careful or whatever. No. She trusted me, obviously, and I trusted her. It was interesting. The dynamics was so vivid. She liked me, I liked her, and we just had a great relationship. We had a great relationship, and that was a challenging time for me because once I got there, of course, when I got there, I didn't have a job yet. So, I had to use whatever funds I had to get me through and so forth. But I always think things are going to work out. Things are going to work out. Things are going to work. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, the changes that you go through, because you have to go through things that you're not used to. It's like outside of your comfort zone, but then it's to get me where I want to go, where I desire to go, to a new place, to a new adventure, to a new surroundings. The thing that I knew is that I wanted to leave that place. I wanted to leave Tulsa. It was comfortable there. I had a nice little townhouse uh that I had all dolled up and fixed up and everything. I had friends, I had great relationships there, and working, and it was just comfortable. I could have stayed there, but it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted out. I wanted the city. I was sharing this with my husband the other day. Of course, I've told him that story, a few times, but it just sounds so great to repeat it, because I just relive it in my mind, and it's such beautiful memories, because everyone that I met, they were so good to me. They were so pleasant, so kind. I had so many beautiful experiences. And then, of course, I was here in Dallas, and that's the city that I live in. I was in Dallas, and um, that's where I was, in the city of Dallas. And I loved it. I loved it. Took me a while. I got set up. I got a job. I got a car, and I just kind of started from, I don't even call it scratch. Well, yeah, yeah, I had to start all over again, but I wasn't afraid. I was not afraid. Why? Because I knew what I wanted. And once I made a decision, the doors started opening, and people just stepped into my life. As a matter of fact, I said to my husband, you see, if I hadn't come to Dallas, I probably would not have met my husband. If I had gone to New York or back to California and so forth, I didn't want to do that. So you can do it too. If you want, there's so many people today that are talking about relocating to another country. Do it. Do it, my friend. Plan and do it. Plan the things you need to plan, because a lot of countries today, as a matter of fact, I was listening to some things today, and they were talking about the countries that are best to relocate in, and they named some countries in Europe and in Latin America, and there are options. You can do the things you want to do. You can make it happen. Think about your belief system. Your belief system keeps you bound. It keeps you trapped. It keeps you stifled. It keeps you in a place of comfort that feels comfortable. But then, life is going by. Life is going by. And then, you come to a place where, life is kind of like past you. And, as long as you have breath, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. For yourself, for your life. You can grow. You can expand. You can allow yourself to go meet new people and opportunities and all that. You can do all of that. You can do all of that, my friend. What if you choose to change the instructions of your belief system? The instructions, the blueprint, the manuscript. What if you choose to change it? What if you choose to create your own? What type of person would you become? What type of person would you go back? Would you remember that you are? And develop behaviors and habits and patterns that give you the strength, the courage to do the things that you want to do, knowing that you don't need validation, you don't need approval, you don't need permission, because the belief that you have are triggered, the belief that you have are guided by things that doesn't apply to you. It's like I say, if it doesn't work for you, If it doesn't, my husband picked up on that. He would say, whatever works for you, sweetheart. If it works for you, fine. Or if I would say, why don't you do this thing or whatever, he would say, well, no, this is what works for me. Yeah, it works for him. So he needs to be who he is. If it doesn't work for you, my friend, get out. If it doesn't work for you, if it's not working for you, because the moment you decide that you want a change, the moment you decide to move, the moment you decide to grow, the moment you decide to develop, the moment you decide to expand, the doors will open. Opportunities will come your way. You will see things that you hadn't seen before. I don't really care how it happens. All I know is that it does happen. And this is, even now, this is the way we live. Once we want something or we want to do something or whatever, we make a decision. And when we make a decision, then it's like that situation, that opportunity, that adventure, that change was waiting for us to align with it, to get in alignment with it, so that it can unfold. This is something that happens almost every day. And it's not a matter of big or small, is that if it's something that you want, if it's something that you desire, if it's something that you dream of, if it's a goal that you have, if you desire it, it's because it's already there. It's because it's already there. It already exists. It already exists. That's why I said your beliefs are not random or, harmless ideas. Some of it can be harmful. The things or the way you believe can be harmful. It'll keep you there. It'll keep you stuck. It'll keep you in the same quagmire year after year after year after year. And you will be living with a desire, with a dream, and that's it. And see people moving by and whatever, and sometimes it triggers you, causes you to feel some kind of way, and that's not really conducive to your emotional stability, and then you have to deal with that. But not knowing that you can live a life of fun, of adventure, a life that is unapologetically you, if you step out of that borrowed belief system, whatever it is. Whether it's money and finances, and your thoughts about money, and you being shy to say, well, I like to have money. Of course, I like money. We have we have a good relationship, and I don't hoard everything. Money circles, it circulates. So, if I have it to give, I give it. And if I want to get something, then I just buy it. My friend, the choice is yours. You can make it happen for yourself now. I'm going to leave you with that so that you can sup on that. Remember, every Thursday we meet right here, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you're not able to meet me at 2 p.m., you see the icons over here. Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can pick up the show 24/7. And if you want to drop me a note, you can go to info@thecynthialennoxshow.com, and you can drop me a note. If you have something that you want me to share, I'll take a look at it and share it, and create a whole show with that which is going to help you. If you need a coach, someone to walk alongside with you and to support you and help you, and drop me a note. info@thecynthialennoxshow.com, and I will respond to you. In the meantime, I'm going to say ta-ta. I'm going to say adios, amigos. time, same place.